Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Tiffany Harlick and welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited to have Daeryl Holzer on the show today. Hi, Daeryl, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I got Daryl's email, guys. I was a client of yours, I want to say 2012-ish. When I met you in Marfa, Texas, and so we were both in Marfa, and you were the village intuitive.
Yeah.
We're the go-to person, and my session with you really stood out because you work strongly with spirit guides and a specific spirit guide, and that was not part of my repertoire at that age. And so you really introduced a concept to me that I have integrated over the years. But I absolutely love working with you. Daeryl is the real deal, but we haven't talked in a long time. So to get her newsletter and to see what has changed in your life, is really significant, because the topic that we're going to cover today is how to maintain a connection and to receive messages with your loved one once they have passed, once they've crossed over. And so I know that this topic is really tender. And I know that many, many people listening are going to be just really interested in some of the techniques. And you have gotten so many special messages from Spirit. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to read Daryl's bio so that you guys have that. And then I'm going to shift gears and let her tell her story, her experience. And at the end, she's going to go over some techniques and strategies that are in her brand new book. If you want to find Daryl and work with her or any of her programs or books, you can go to her website, darylholzer.com, and I'll link that for you guys. But her name is DaeryLHolzer.com. So for Daeryl, for over 20 years, Daryl's work with her spirit guide, Taliana, has enabled her to tap into the immense and unlimited energy of spirit, resulting in a greater capacity for love, wisdom, and an ability to trust in the flow of unpredictable events, and the development of many innovative techniques and products to assist others. Her intention is to provide information to help people make better choices for themselves through deeper understanding of the soul story behind common situations. With insight from her own experiences and working with hundreds of clients, her goal is to empower each person to go more boldly on their own personal journey of growth and purpose. So, Daeryl is the author of Opening a Window to the Soul, a guide to living beyond the human drama, and Permissions, 100 Days of Encouragement card set. She also has developed two extensive teaching programs, Soul Shift Healing Process, which involves addressing life from the soul perspective and connecting directly with the divine source, and shifting core beliefs through innovative revisioning techniques, which she's also trademarked. Her clairvoyant training involves activating and accelerating intuitive potential through simple exercises and specialized guided journeys. I know that, Daeryl, you're now in Bozeman, Montana, and I know that really the reason we're here is also to talk about your book, A Feather for My Love. And so just start us out. Start us out with how why you're writing the book, your experience, your story, and we are captivated.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm so honored to be here. And okay, so my focus, as she mentioned in the bio, has always been that we can live a more dynamic and powerful life if we have a connection with spirit. So, and it's not just about manifesting, it's about understanding and feeling like we're not alone doing this journey that we call life. So my hope in all things that I do is to encourage people to access their own spirit guides, their own ability to trust their intuition, the capacity to live with a multidimensional existence, being able to have a continual source of love, strength, and wisdom, no matter who is or isn't in your life. So I'm just going to mostly focus today on the book that I've just completed, A Feather for My Love. And the reason it's called that is I met my soulmate in 2004. He was the man that I always wanted to be with, in contrast to all the other karmic challenges that I had been with before. So he was not specifically a spiritual being. He was an artist and an innovator and a science guy, and he was just sort of had that old soul wisdom, believed in magic, believed in the possibility of unknown everythings, really. So the reason it's called A Feather for My Love is because he got cancer, and I'm just doing that short part of that journey. We got to live together for 10 years, and then he got cancer. And this is the key thing. I believed that we might be able to connect afterwards. So I asked him if we're going to be able to connect. And he said, yes, leave, and I said, how? And he says, make sure your antenna are on, leave your antenna on. And I thought that was so cute. And then I said, he knew I had this whole spirit guide connection with Taliana that I've been working with for years. And I've also called in other guides. And I said, how will I know it's you and not something else? And he said, I'll bring you a feather. So, and his nickname for me was My Love. So that A Feather for My Love was just kind of encompassed the whole thing. So I didn't set out to, when I got the idea to write this book, it was almost like it came from him. It came from Steve. Like I had this nudging in my sensory body, in the back of my mind, write the story, because I had been keeping a journal through my experience with him during his sick time, as he was passing, and afterwards. And the main crux of this whole experience is this. Yeah, I'm clairvoyant. I have a real strong open trust of the mystery, if you want to call it that. And I have a real strong trust of my ability to gain information from someplace that I can't explain. And that's a really key thing in being able to stay connected to a loved one that's on the other side, because I've heard so many stories about people who, oh yeah, mom died and the lights kept flickering. It freaked me out. I got rid of that lamp.
Right. Yeah.
Don't push it away. Don't push it away. Or, some other thing, like, that some other sign that came along, and they say, oh, that couldn't be it. No, that's not rational. People are going to think I'm crazy. That's just my grief. And they miss it. It's like having somebody really important calling you and you don't answer the phone.
Right.
The most common question I get, and I get a lot of people, I mean, everybody knows somebody they care about that's died. Mm-hmm. Probably. I mean, I made it for a long time in my life before I had somebody very close to me die. But one of the other key things is to understand that when somebody crosses over, they aren't suffering anymore. It doesn't matter if it was a suicide, a car accident, a sudden tragic thing, an overdose, a long extended illness. Whatever they were experiencing on the human plane melts. There may be a period of adjustment, especially when it's a sudden, caught by surprise sort of thing. They look back and say, oh, wow, what just happened? And it takes a little while, but they are loved and supported by soul family members. That's kind of the key. You know, we have so many of our religions that tell us that death is creepy and scary. They might go to the bad place. They're going to be punished, you know, blah, 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 all of those stipulations. And I've worked with so many people who ask me, where's mom? Is she okay? Or where's so and so? I want to know where they are, how they're doing. And I have yet to find anybody who's still suffering. That's the condition of this physical earth plane. So if you can let that idea go, it's easier to connect, because I think some people are afraid to stay connected because they're afraid they're going to keep witnessing somebody's suffering. So I'd like to just kind of go through some quick little stories about my experience with Steve. And these are written much more extensively in the book. So when he was in his last weeks, he wasn't sleeping. I could tell he wasn't sleeping. He would close his eyes and he had this kind of odd look on his face. And then when he opened his eyes, he would look blissed out. His energy was just blissed out. So I didn't say, oh, you're awake. I'd say, ooh, you're back. Where have you been? Because I also know from my work with death and dying and that sometimes when somebody's in that dying process, they spend time going and visiting where they're headed. Almost like, oh, I'm going to go on this trip. I'm looking at the travel brochures. I'm getting ideas. I'm getting prepared. So he would say, everywhere. I've been everywhere. And in his artwork, he utilized a lot of fractal imagery. And so I said, is it like being in a fractal? And he said, I am the fractal. And it was so cool that he was actually starting to see where he was going. And he was not excited to leave me or his other, life, but he at least had this like, oh, I'm going to get to go and be something really cool. Yeah. So he wasn't afraid. And we started talking in more realistic terms. And like I said, that quick little story about he'll bring me a feather. So he passed away at about 3 a.m. And what was incredible about that was he was highly medicated. And I was sitting with him. I had one hand on his heart and one hand on his forehead. And somehow I was able to let go of all the horrible feelings and just send love and be his kind of midwife coach. And I just said, it's okay. Let go, let go. And when his soul left his body, I felt it go into my heart and up through my head and out. And then he was gone. And it was like a kiss goodbye. It was a horrible and wonderful thing all at the same time.
Very bittersweet. Yeah.
Yeah, very bittersweet. So after his death, we waited until the morning to call the officials and do all of that, stuff you have to do with waiting for them to come and get the body. And, Steve had said to me, I don't want to leave you, but this meat suit is toast. That was his kind of sense of humor. So what was left behind was just the shell. It was just the shell. I wasn't sentimental about his physical form at all. So my friend and I are waiting for the people to come from the funeral home. We lived very remotely. It was often hard to find the address. So I had my phone right with me. The ringer was on. I was waiting. A couple of hours went by after I called. And so I looked at the phone and, oh, there's a voice message. There's a note that there's a voice message. So I listened to it, and it wasn't his sick voice. It was Steve's strong, joyful, robust voice saying, well, hey there. And then a pause. Wow. And by the way, I love you. bye now, and a laugh. And Steve's laugh would just ripple. And I couldn't believe it. So I had my friend listen to it. We checked this timestamp. There was no indication on the phone that there had been a call. There was no missed call. There was no, none of that. It was just the voice message.
Wow.
And so it was a very powerful, wow, okay, maybe he really is going to be able to do this. Maybe he's really going to be able to reach out to me. And that was something I couldn't avoid. And it was witnessed by someone else. Now, there's plenty of people that said, oh, that was some old voice message. But even if it was some old voice message, and I know it wasn't,
right.
Even if it was some old voice message, why did it show up right then and there?
Yeah, right.
So that was the first thing. And then feathers started showing up. I would go sit outside. There'd be a feather that would drop in front of me. And so there's feathers, and then there's whole birds, because the first mornings I would wake up and I was just devastated at the loss and the emptiness of the room and all of that. And this roadrunner, we were living in the desert, and this roadrunner was clamoring about on the trellis that was up above the bedroom window. Roadrunners are ground dwelling birds, right. And they tremendously avoid people. I'd never seen one in town before. I had seen one out in the desert, but for 3 mornings in a row, this roadrunner showed up. And as soon as I said, hi, Steve, it would just run away. And then later it was shown, other friends would say, hey, I saw Steve. He's that roadrunner, right? Wandering around town, kind of checking people out. There was one of the more astounding things was he had a pear tree that he liked to sit at and meditate and drink his coffee or look out on the great beyond. So after we had a group memorial, I wanted something special for myself, kind of a place to go and kind of be with him and talk or whatever. So my friend and I made a little ceremony, and we set up a spot dug a little hole, put my hair, his hair, some of his charcoal from his sketching, some various things that were going to be eaten by the earth, right?
Yeah.
And I put on top of that, I put this, about 6 inches diameter ceramic lid from a very special bowl that I had made for him. So there's these objects, and then there's the lid, and there's a couple inches of dirt, and then there's a crystal on top with some flower petals and whatnot. And I just, we said, bless you, farewell, whatever, had some tears. And that was a place that I could go and talk to him. So that was, I think that it is valuable to have some meaningful personal rituals that one makes for themselves to honor or stay connected. Flash forward to many months later, I'm moving away. And I thought, well, this is going to be too weird for somebody if they buy this house and they're planting flowers or something and they come across this weird thing. And I don't want somebody, because a lot of people in town knew us, and there would have been that story. So the same friend and I were going to do another ceremony to help me release myself from that property, and also to remove some of the things. So we, the crystal was still there, same spot. We dug around, we did around like 4 inches down. There was nothing there. The lid was gone. This totally substantial ceramic lid was gone. And in its place was a bronze medallion. Oh. And on one side, it's just this little thing.
Wow.
And on one side, it says, "Blessed will you be coming in, And on the other side, it says, and blessed going out.
Whoa.
I'd never seen this before. I had no idea where it came from. And we both just kind of went, wow, these things are astounding.
Yeah.
But if anybody could make inanimate objects move, it would have been Steve.
Yeah.
So, but I truly believe that when a soul is in the spirit realm, whether that be somebody that's passed on or one of your spirit guides, there's all kinds of things possible that we can't wrap our heads around because we can't do it.
Right.
We don't know how to make physical things move without touching them.
Right.
So one of the there were so many things, and I'm kind of starting to give a little bit of examples of what kind of signs might show up for somebody. Feathers, birds, animals behaving strangely. Sometimes I've heard stories that, oh, I think mom's coming through my dog. That's weird. It doesn't, maybe sometimes it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
But initially in the beginning, it's kind of like whoever's just passed on, they want you to know they're okay.
Yeah.
I kept having dreams, and dreams are one of the easiest ways for somebody who's passed on to come and check us out or get to us, because our conscious mind is not overriding anything. And doubting or criticizing or going, that can't be happening, because the dream world, anything can happen. Sure. So in the dreams at first, Steve kept showing up and he was sick. And I was just like, but he wasn't sick initially. He was standing there kind of okay. And then I would start talking to him and say, oh, wait, what happened? You had cancer, and maybe, oh, are you still dealing with that? I'll call the doctor. And I'm just like going back through all these things again. And he would just stand there looking sad, like, oh God, she doesn't get it. So I had these dreams over and over of being sad. I kept returning to the old story and my emotional distress. And then I had some insights in a meditation, and I had another intuitive friend of mine say, he's coming to you in your dreams to show you he's okay. Why don't you ask to see him somewhere else besides the old house? And so I did. And even right away that night, he came to me in a dream and he swooped me up like Superman style. And he said, let me show you where I am now. Aww. And we flew out into the cosmos. We flew out into this place where it was all stars. It was dark, but it was like the kind of dark that's made up of all the colors. And there were stars, and there was just this energy of joy and love. And it was so cool. And I said, what is this energy? And he reached his unbelievably long arm out into the middle of it, and he grabbed a white line of light and wrapped it around me and said, here, take this with you. Whoa. And this energy wrapped around me felt like healing, love, ongoing connection. And I came back from that dream, instead of waking up and losing him all over again, like I had been. This time I woke up going, wow, he's wrapped around me, and so is the spirit realm. And it felt so profoundly healing. So working with the one who's passed on, or your own spirit guides, or both, in the dream world, asking for healing, asking for the release of suffering is really, really valuable. When I'm not relaying these stories in any sequence of time, because I'm just bouncing around here, but one of the other cool things that happened is, before I did the little ceremony at the pear tree, we had a public gathering for everybody in the town who loved him to come and honor him. And we had some people who had everybody had contributed still photography to a rolling slideshow. And there weren't any video clips in it. It was all still photography. So I'm standing up, this video is playing behind me, and I'm standing up after other people told stories. I'm standing up and saying, hey, this is a great party. This is such an honor to Steve, because we all know how much he loves a party, and this is a great party. And as soon as I said that, everybody started laughing and pointing at the screen behind me. And we turned around and I turned around and saw his smiling face moving and doing a profane gesture to all of us.
Oh my God, how funny.
And it went on for about that moment of my describing, and then it was gone.
Whoa.
And nobody said that they had put anything on the screen like that. And when we reviewed the slideshow days later, it wasn't there anymore.
Wow. I have full body chill bumps. That's
Yeah.
juicy.
I mean, and he was laughing. He loved to be the trickster. So that was perfect. And so the next little story that I'm going to tell has to do with a technique that I learned from this experience that is so powerful for anybody to use, whether you feel a connection or you get any of these odd occurrences or not. And that is when I've been teaching in Japan for many years. And I went to Japan soon after he passed away, like 6 months after he passed away, and I was still devastated. The sense of fatigue and overwhelm, and I just felt sensitive and frazzled. My adrenals were shot from being a caregiver, all kinds of things like that. So when I was there, one of my translator friends said, a Japanese person said, there's this great fire temple, this temple in downtown Tokyo that does a fire ceremony. This might be really good for you. Do you want to go? I said, of course. So we're sitting on the floor of this ancient temple, hardwood floors, giant taiko drums, big long horns, shaky rattles, all kinds of real Japanese shamanic stuff. Everybody's chanting, and the priest is sitting in front of a big square vat about the size of 2 desks, and it's fire, and they're passing things through it, and throwing incense in or whatever. So I'm just kind of in this altered state. I've got my eyes closed, my heart broken, my eyes closed, and Steve's head comes upside down from somewhere above me in my mind's eye. Boom, right in front of me. And he says, hey, I'm up here now. And he grabbed the cord that was at my heart, that connection that we make to our loved ones so that we can feel their love even if we're not together. But mine had been ripped out. When his body left the planet, the cord was just flailing around, and that's a really common pain. You feel like your heart's broken. I've had a hole ripped through my heart, whatever. So he comes down and he says, hey, I'm up here now. And he grabs the heart cord and he takes it back to where he is. And I could feel his love after that. And I felt a heart healing in that moment. It felt like the tear had been soothed and repaired. And it's a very powerful technique, even just to use your imagination and being consciously aware of the cord that's attached to the heart that can be repositioned. Instead of looking for the lost body, go to spirit where they are now. Was an instrumental part. So I felt compelled. I mean, I felt that was really profound. I'm in this temple, and I just all of a sudden went, I have to go outside right now. So I went and I stood and I looked down the street. Now Tokyo is like wall to wall, huge, tall buildings. All the temples have a large avenue that comes up to them. That's the original blueprint. I'm looking at this strip of sky, and there's a bird coming from the distance towards me along this strip of sky. And as it gets closer, I realize it's a really large bird. It's a crane, one single crane flying straight over. And I said to my Japanese friend who had come out and was watching, and she said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God."
Yeah.
She said, "That's so powerful." I said, "What's the meaning in Japan for a crane?" And she says they symbolize longevity, a devoted lifetime couple.
Mm-hmm.
They represent, that powerful aspect of our life here on earth, that we partner up.
Yeah.
And so she said, "I think that's Steve flying overhead." So that was really cool. Trying to think of some other fun stories. So that he passed away in 2014. This is the year 23. It's still happening. It didn't end. Now, I know that part of the reason it didn't end was because it's part of my journey with him to tell that, but also because I'm connected. So I'm keeping an eye on the time, and I'm recognizing I've gone on and on. What would you like me to talk about at this point?
Well, I would love, first of all, this has been so powerful to hear these stories, and you're not going on and on. Every story is impactful and has a little bit of those techniques woven into it. But I would love for you to do not necessarily a recap, but just a few bullet points for people that have lost a loved one that really don't, like, let's say they're not having those powerful experiences. They're not having the visions. They're not as attuned to remembering their dreams. What are a few things people can do to feel connected? And I know that you have these listed at the back of your book, so I want to point everybody back to darylholzer.com to purchase that and have it as a resource or a gift in times of need. But just a few things that might be top of mind for somebody that isn't quite as metaphysical as
Right. Well, first of all, I would say start to trust your intuition more. Develop whatever you can develop. There's lots of teachers out there, myself included, on how to accelerate, how to trust your intuition, and be open. The second thing is you can take a meaningful object, maybe something that a wedding ring, something that reminds you of that person, and sit and meditate and hold the vision of the love, not the pain and suffering. Hold the vision of the love and listen for the background voice. The background voice doesn't sound like mine right now. It sounds like somebody calling from the other room. Mm-hmm. Just don't push it away. Believe it, trust it. And the heart chord for sure.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I've never heard that. So I love that.
It's so helpful. And ask for them to show up in your dreams. Meditate, ask for them to show up in your dreams. And then the last one that I didn't really address is there's some techniques about, if we had more time, I would do this, but if anybody's interested, you could contact me directly. And on my website, there's a YouTube video that's called Meet Your Spirit Guide. You can also use this same exercise, it's only about 7 minutes, to take a journey to the spirit realm, go to where they are and meet them, get a hug, ask a question. There's lots of good techniques. And I want to say also that I know Steve compelled me to write this book, and I hope that many, many people can read it, enjoy it, feel the love, feel the ongoing connection, and share it with people that you know who are suffering with grief.
Yeah.
We aren't supposed to stay stuck in our sadness. That I know for sure. For sure, for sure.
Well, in closing, before we got on, you brought over a purple feather, and I want you to share that story too.
Okay, so 2 days ago, Saturday, I was giving a talk at a holistic fair locally here. And I was talking about this story. And I went back to my booth and, everything was as is. And then I was giving a reading and I looked over on the table across the booth, and this little, not so little, amethyst stone that's carved in the design of a feather was sitting on the table where nobody put it. It just showed up out of nowhere. And this one is the most like substantial physical thing. It showed up out of nowhere. It's still happening. It's ongoing. And I just want to say, kind of on closing here, I
Yeah.
could talk about this for a long time, Tiffany. I so appreciate being a guest here. And Steve sends a message.
Mm.
Go live wild, go live more. Don't let anything stop you.
Oh, that's good. So I know you're connected because it brings up tears for me. So that just was very valid. Go live wild. I love that. I love Steve and I love you. And thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you. And if anybody wants to buy the book, it can be bought through my website or on Amazon.
Yes, perfect. Well, I will again put your name in the description link. But Daeryl Holzer, you are amazing. You're a miracle. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Oh, well, and I hope you'll come back on sometime too.
Anytime. Have a
All right.
great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you.